Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go to all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, January the 17th, 2024, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm host the most Will Buchanan. How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we are a news podcast. We do try to get our sources from the most reputable sites with award-winning journalism. We do not do sensational news like Fox News or News Media or Newsmax or whatever extreme left or extreme right that you may get your posts from. We give you nothing but the facts and you go from yourself. We do try to watch your language, but sometimes words do fly. At the same time, there may be things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, really, how do we start this? Well, the only way we can start this is that somebody needs to apologize to Mother Nature badly.
NBC meteorologist Michelle Grossman for the latest on this coast-to-coast cold. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning, Francis. Great to see you. And we're looking at dangerous cold. We're looking at life-threatening cold weather as well. Some of these temperatures, it only takes 5 minutes to be outdoors to get frostbite. So we're looking at 92 million Americans under winter alerts or wind chill alerts. We're talking the northern plains into the Ohio Valley down to the south central states. And temperatures are going to feel well below normal for this time of year. In some spots, feeling like 40 below zero once you factor in the winds. Take a look at these temperatures. We're looking at temperatures 13 in Little Rock. It's going to feel like 0 degrees. The northern plains feeling like negative 32 in Duluth, even down to Texas. We're looking at Houston. It will feel like 24 degrees there, just feeling like 8 below zero in Fort Worth. So those are dangerous temperatures. Also looking at wintry weather, 59 million people impacted. We have winter alerts for the Intermountain West, the Pacific Northwest, into portions of the South Central states, also the Mid-Atlantic. And we could see 1 to 3 inches in portions of the Northeast by tomorrow.
Yeah, so pretty much whoever pissed off Mother Nature, from people that live in the South, apologize quickly. But no, seriously, guys, a cold front that has came through has hit everybody. I mean, from coast to coast, we're all feeling it. So hopefully you guys are bundled up, you're safe. Don't go outside. Also, this is not a time to test your liability insurance. As has been said a lot of times, this is full coverage counties, full coverage roads right now. So if you have liability insurance, just stay home. Do us all a favor. Don't test the roads. But above all else, be safe. But moving right along, guys, that wasn't the only thing that was cold. As we did talk about in the last podcast, the Iowa caucus did happen. And, well, should be no surprise about who won.
Donald Trump was a heavy favorite in Monday's Iowa caucuses, and he dominated the first votes of the 2024 presidential election.
Our Charles Benson has more on the results and where voters rank the other candidates.
A big win here tonight for the former President Donald Trump, even though it was a smaller voter turnout in this record cold caucus night, but still an unprecedented win for Trump. Former President Donald Trump winning all but one of Iowa's 99 counties, following a call to action to his supporters to show up no matter what, and they did.
So we're going to put America first. We're going to make America great again. Again, Iowa, we love you.
Trump was the favorite to win Iowa, but all eyes were on the race for second place. Iowans selecting Florida Governor Ron DeSantis as their second choice for the nomination. DeSantis had a lot on the line with big expectations, given his all-in effort in the Hawkeye state.
We thank you for your effort. We thank you for your support. You helped us get a ticket punched out of the Hawkeye state.
Coming into Iowa, former Governor Nikki Haley had momentum, climbing in the polls. While Haley came in third, she did narrowly win one county, Johnson County, home of the University of Iowa.
Do you want more of the same? Or do you want a new generation of conservative leadership?
Nikki Haley telling her supporters she believes this is now a two-person race between her and Donald Trump. Ron DeSantis will have something to say about that. One thing is clear. For second place, it is now a two-person race between Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis.
Well, I cannot say, all I can say, guys, I told you so. I told you. It is amazing to me how we are still in a presidential nomination year. A man who is facing multiple lawsuits, multiple indictments. His lawyers are working around the clock. This man has never went to a single Republican debate, has led in the polls after every debate, literally has no qualification to be nominated again, and yet has won every GOP poll you put him in front of. I used to laugh and say there's no way in hell Trump can be nominated again. Now it's not a joke anymore. Now it's serious because Trump still has his cult. At the same time, I feel like it's 2016 all over again. I feel like it's 2016 all over again. I feel like the more people are going to be behind this man because rich people love Trump. Corporations love Trump. Racists love Trump. Why? Because the scary part about this is this man can still turn around and do everything he said he was going to do his first day in office. That's the scary part. But I also sat there and said, there was nobody on the Republican side that was going to go against the mob. You had a few. I mean, you had your Uncle Tom Tim Scott, a black man trying to run for presidency of the GOP. We saw how that turned out. You had America's creepiest Christian, Mike Pence, trying to run for office. You saw how that worked out. And now, at this most recent poll, Asa Hutchinson, former Arkansas governor, suspends his campaign because he sees no way out. I know a lot of people are going, who? Exactly. That man was about as present as a Kardashian at a Mensa test. That tells you how much nobody knows about Asa Hutchinson. But Vivek Ramaswamy, again, a man that tried to challenge the status quo, said that he was going to tell the truth, that his whole truth that January 6th was a setup, that, for the longest time, he spat the lie about the election being rigged against Donald Trump. He's the same guy that even though he tried to come off as radical, he couldn't get any traction. And you could tell so by the time they got to Iowa, this man was done. So again, we're down now to 3. Now I think about it, we had a solid group of 8 potential nominees. 8 on the Republican side. And all but 3 have left. There's nothing but 3 left standing. And now you have dictator Ron DeSantis, who believes that he's in line for a VP slot. And Nikki Haley, that's not her real name, is still trying to go for the overall nomination. While Trump, dodging litigation, dodging possible jail time, dodging possible being labeled as a felon, as he should be, could still slide into the Republican nomination for 2024. That alone is scary. Because and I'm going to be honest with you, and I'll say this once, I'll say it again. I don't get conservatives that vote for people that are against their interests, but swear up and down it's the right thing to do. Because I know a lot of people are going to sit there and say, oh, well, if you're not conservative, you're Democrat. If you're not Democrat, you're conservative. This is why I keep saying, guys, to get to know the candidates, get to know who's being in front, not just on a national level, but on a local level. Why? Because you are the sole reason why a lot of people get voted in. It's the sole reason. I'm just being honest with you guys. The sole reason a lot of these guys get voted in is simply put because, well, 1, nobody pays attention to them, and 2, everybody just votes along party lines. There's no research being done. And I'll tell you why there's no research being done. Because only in Florida where Governor Ron DeSantis has systematically destroyed so many things, this story came out about the fact that Florida districts will pull over 1,600 books for review to possibly be banned, including the dictionary. You know, usually this is stuff you find under the onion, but let's think about this for a second. The dictionary is a problem? The dictionary. I mean, they try to say the Guinness Book of World Records is a problem, which, again, I don't see how. The Diary of Anne Frank. Again, that's required reading. I don't see how that's a problem. But your issue under Governor Ron DeSantis is the dictionary. The one thing we all use for spelling, because grammar takes off points in English class. We all know this. And it's amazing that the books that they're reviewing, the biographies of Beyonce and Oprah Winfrey, the autobiography of Malcolm X, these are the books that are currently being reviewed to be banned. And as I've said here, and I said this on Give It Podcast, guys, whenever we say there's a book they don't want you to read it. There's a reason for it, and that you should. But this is Governor DeSantis, and that's just Florida. Now, I understand Florida's not the only state where they have cities that are trying to ban books. Oh no, there's several. But imagine if Ron DeSantis was a Republican nominee. What could he do from a nationwide standpoint on literature, much less education? He'd destroy it. But he's not the only one. Nikki Haley seems to have an issue with history. Why? We just covered a few weeks ago that Nikki Haley couldn't answer the question of what started the Civil War because she was trying to think so far ahead. Oh, well, I thought slavery was the accepted, understood. No, that was a slam. That was literally an alley-oop that was given to you and you fumbled it. So again, Nikki Haley, that's not her real name, female Republican presidential candidate, has sat there and said the one thing that almost every minority would call bullshit on.
The U.S. has never been a racist country. Take a listen.
Yeah. Are you a racist party? Are you involved in a racist?
We're not a racist country, Brian. We've never been a racist country. Our goal is to make sure that today is better than yesterday. Are we perfect? No. I know I faced racism when I was growing up, but I can tell you today is a lot better than it was then.
Haley's campaign followed this up with a statement later on saying, quote, America has always had racism, but America has never been a racist country. The liberal media always fails to get that distinction. What do you make of this?
Racism is alive and well and thriving in the United States of America. I actually have a piece that'll be going on CNN.com.
But is the U.S. a racist country is the issue?
No, but I think I believe that systemic racism, which is an outgrowth of white supremacy, which came out of, Reconstruction and the Civil War and became the lost cause mythology, which justified white supremacy, which created racist systems. So absolutely, just like there's still sexist systems, it does still exist. That doesn't mean that and I know this in my own life as a person who is biracial, right? That does not mean that what is in people's hearts is always that they are racist or that they have hate. For some it is, but for others it means maybe they just don't have a way to see the other side or understand how we all live differently and experiences.
So I'm just going to stop her right there because it's an easy question. Is America a racist country? Every minority would be like, yeah. And yet Nikki Haley, the United States has never been a racist country. Yeah, I'm calling cap on that because we still have sundown towns. We still have areas where minorities refer to some areas as good old boy country or KKK territory. We still get followed. Minorities still get followed whenever they go into stores. Minorities are still heavily profiled by law enforcement. Minorities have to work twice as hard to get half of what a non-minority would have to get or obtain or uphold. Redlining is still a thing. Banks are still denying loans to more minorities than any other racial group. But you're going to sit there and tell me, Nikki Haley, that's not your real name, that America has never been a racist country. Ask the Native Americans that question. Because I'm just saying, if anybody would know firsthand knowledge, but that's Nikki Haley, though. Nikki Haley is doing exactly what she's always done, which is basically pander to the group. She's pandering to the bubble. That's why she's on Fox and Friends. You'll never see, and I say this all the time, here's the problem with most candidates. Candidates always go to safe spots. Republicans, conservatives will always go to Fox News. They will very rarely go to NBC, CNN, CNBC, ABC, CBS. They will very rarely. Why? They're not considered safe. They're not considered safe spots. They feel like they'll be ambushed. Or my personal favorite, you'll be held to a certain standard of accountability. But they'll go to safe places. Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Dorito himself will all go to Fox News. No problem. Why? Because Fox News is not a news station. They can have Fox News channel under there all they want to. There is no journalism there. There is sensationalized news. There is news that is meant to pull you away from what you should be paying attention to. There are people there that spout nothing but hatred, bigotry, and things of that nature, all because they are sensationalized state propaganda. That's all they are. And Republicans and their counterparts and conservatives watch Fox News like old people watch game shows. That's the truth. That's why Nikki Haley was able to go to Fox and Friends, and he softballed that. Do you think America's a racist country? America has never been a racist country, says the person who couldn't answer one U.S. history question right. And you want to be president. Nikki Haley has said nothing about bridging the gap between minorities. She has said nothing about bridging the gap for women. She has said nothing short of being a change from Donald Trump. While Donald Trump is spinning his greatest hits and is still gaining voters and donations by the hour. Dictator Ron DeSantis is barely hanging on because, like I said, at this point, unless something happens to Trump, he's a lock-in for the presidential nomination. And if that happens, then all you have is the battle for number 2. And honestly, it's a lesser of two evils. You have Trump 2.0 and Ron DeSantis, or you have never actually seen the inside of a U.S. history book, Nikki Haley. That alone is a scary thought. But even more so, it just goes to show you how messed up that party really is. And don't worry, I'll get on the Democrats momentarily, but Republicans are way off. But switching gears for a second, guys, I want to talk about New York Mayor Eric Adams, as his administration is under investigation for corruption during his run as the mayor, during his run to be the mayor of New York. Of course, they've raised $650,000, which any city employee can do if they are under investigation. Now, again, this story is slightly coming out as the mayor is being investigated. It's going to be interesting considering the fact that this is only his first term. And he's already under investigation just because of the simple fact of the matter they're worried about how certain operations and money was used during his campaign. Either way, it is bound to be interesting to see what they come up with. But moving right along, I want to start with my home state of Tennessee, which I call progressively backwards. Imagine you are the speaker of the Tennessee Legislative House, which means that you have a lot of power. Even more so, you decide that you don't want the public to listen in on certain hearings. And if you do, you must have a ticket. It sounds like some messed up Charlie and the Chocolate Factory story, right? No, it's actually happening.
Limitations were put on the public and media today when lawmakers went back to session. Speaker of the House Cameron Sexton put a policy in place blindsiding some lawmakers.
Yeah, it prevents the public from sitting in part of the gallery. Our Marissa Sulek was able to get a spot there today and see this all unfold. Marissa, what was this like?
Yeah, Lydia, in fact, my photographer Jason and I were told to move over to a specific section of the gallery. And there are many journalists and still photographers on the floor. They're meant to be there. However, they were told they were not put on a specific list, and they were told to come up to the gallery where we are as well. Now, I want to have you look at your screen. This is a picture of what lawmakers were given today. It's a ticket, one ticket they get for someone to go up to the West Gallery and watch lawmakers in session. The other side was full of dozens of interns, a few rows of Covenant moms who were able to snag some seats, and activists, one who was kicked out after shouting during a moment of silence. We asked lawmakers when they found out about this. House Democratic Caucus Chair John Ray Clemens says it was short notice.
We didn't know it was going to happen. I found out less than an hour before I walked in this building that the general public was going to be barred effectively from this house.
Now, Representative Clemens says he hopes that Speaker Sexton will rethink this policy. I also reached out to House Republicans for a statement on this today. We have still not heard back by news time. For now, live from the Capitol.
That's crazy, isn't it? That a Speaker of the House can determine what the public can and cannot listen to. Even more so, you need a ticket. And I was thinking, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I got the golden ticket. I got the golden ticket. Imagine in a public-funded building for people who were elected by the public, specifically one person, Brad Sexton, that he and his Republican buddies can decide what the public can or cannot listen to. And by doing so, treating it like the Grand Ole Opry House. You must need a ticket to sit on these hearings. Keep in mind, beforehand, that never happened. You never needed a ticket to listen to public hearings. I myself, an ordinary person, can go down to the State House and sit in and listen to the hearings because we have that right as the public. As the public, we have that right to know what's going on. And yet Brad Sexton, and I'm going to keep repeating his name because people in Tennessee should know this, that man needs to be definitely removed from his office, because that's the hold that conservatives do have on these states, that they can push things through that not only that their Democratic counterparts cannot vote on, but at the same time can turn around and sit there and say, well, we can do that because we have the majority. And I keep telling you guys, I keep saying this all the time. Be careful of who you vote in office, because whether you vote for the other person or choose not to vote at all, there's always a consequence to it. And right now, Tennessee's consequence is Sexton, the same man who tried to put out two very prominent lawmakers and had them go through a full-on revoting process to get re-entered in because, simply put, they were saying what lots were saying about gun violence here in Tennessee and ignore the gun loaners. But I digress. Moving right along, guys, I wanted to cover Georgia DA Fani Willis. Why? Because outside of her prosecuting Trump, she has a scandal of her own. And at the same time, Fox News wasted no time on it.
District Attorney leading the case against former President Trump. Fani Willis spoke for the first time on Sunday about her alleged improper relationship with one of the lawyers she hired. Senior national correspondent Steve Osunsami is in Atlanta with the story. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning to you, George. There are many people here, many of them her supporters, who wanted to hear her deny one of the biggest allegations against her, that she was allegedly in a relationship with one of the special prosecutors she hired to work the case against the former president. In her comments, she did not confirm or deny any of that.
I'm a little confused.
It's the first time she's spoken publicly since being accused of having a, quote, improper relationship with Nathan Wade, the special prosecutor in the alleged election interference case, who she hired, who records show took the job a day after he filed for divorce from his wife.
I appointed 3 special counsel, as is my right to do, paid them all the same hourly rate. They only attacked one.
Speaking before one of the oldest black churches in America on Sunday, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis shared that she was flawed and imperfect and spoke about the racism she has endured. She says no one is focusing this way on the 2 other special prosecutors she's appointed who are white.
Isn't it them who's playing the race card when they only question one?
But a lawyer for Michael Roman, a co-defendant of the former president, says race has nothing to do with it In a legal filing, she's accusing the Fulton County prosecutor and Nathan Wade of having a self-serving arrangement where she says they purchased tickets for cruise lines and traveled together to Napa Valley. And without evidence, the lawyer accuses Willis and Wade of paying for these alleged vacations with the nearly $650,000 in legal fees that Wade has earned since working the case. In a statement Sunday, the lawyer said that the biggest difference between the white and black special prosecutors is that neither of the white hired lawyers have taken Miss Willis to California, Florida, or in cruises to the Caribbean. She wants her client's indictment thrown out and Willis removed from the case.
There's a potential that she could get disqualified from the case. And then if you have a new prosecutor appointed to it, somebody who doesn't like the case could be dismissed because they don't think that it should be moved forward.
Republicans in Washington are already all over this. The House Judiciary Committee, led by Republicans, is now investigating. An attorney for Donald Trump says that he's considering adopting this same motion against Willis. Donald Trump, Mr. Roman, and 17 others pleaded not guilty last August after prosecutors charged them with attempting to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election in Georgia. 4 of them took plea deals in exchange for testifying against other defendants. The judge has not set a date for trial yet, but Fani Willis is asking that it begin in August, setting up a scenario we could potentially have a president-elect in November being called to state trial here in Georgia. There's a hearing likely next month to discuss some of these accusations where Fani Willis will have a chance to respond.
So that's the actual report that's came out, that DA Fani Willis herself had possibly a alleged affair with one of her workers. That's it. Oh, well, that's it? Yeah, that's it. Well, I mean, so they went on trips together. Yeah. Allegedly. He took her to California. Yeah. Allegedly. So what does that got to do with her prosecuting Trump for election fraud? Exactly. That right there is the big thing. What does that have to do with her prosecuting Donald Trump for election fraud in Georgia? Absolutely nothing. The whole idea of it all is that, yes, the district attorney did go to a church, which, again, I talked about this in my last podcast. Whenever it comes to reaching out to Black people, I don't know why a church is always the first thing that comes to mind. I get it that the church does have a history for Black people gathering in the past. I understand it. But at the same time, these are all allegations. All allegations that two people decided that they're going to either hang out. Again, all allegedly. Does this change the fact that Trump did cause election fraud in Georgia? Absolutely not. Not when he's on the phone with Secretary of State looking for some odd number of votes. Not when he was trying through Rudy Giuliani to basically point out two Georgia poll workers who had to upheave their whole life because of death threats, who Giuliani's now paying for. It doesn't change the fact of all that. But this is character assassination 101. They knew that anybody that comes after Trump is going to get character assassinated, because if you do things the right way, if you have him dead to rights, then the character is the only thing they can go after. Your actions is the only thing they can go after. They have to do a smear campaign just enough to get said person removed from office. And let's also be honest, even if Fani Willis was removed from this case, it doesn't take away from the fact that Trump has overwhelming evidence that he did commit election fraud in Georgia. But if we go over to the world of Fox News, albeit for a moment, they tell a very different tone over there. And again, this is what I call sensationalist state propaganda meant to smear. But you'll notice in this whole entire thing I'm about to play, Trump's not even mentioned once.
Attorney Fani Willis is accused of having an affair with has been paid more than $650,000 in fees by Fulton County. Here's a little bit of his resume. Wade was a municipal judge who mostly dealt with traffic tickets and running a private practice focusing on family law and contract disputes. Our Fox News research department found no evidence he has ever prosecuted a felony case. Yet Fani Willis picked him for arguably the biggest case in her career. A former Justice Department prosecutor with this.
Bottom line is, it looks like Fani Willis, according to this motion filed by Mr. Roman's attorney, has brought in a special prosecutor who has never tried a felony case and who got divorced or filed for divorce the day after she appointed him to this position, for which he and his firm has now billed about $1 million.
Clay Travis, founder of Outkick, and today I'm adding an attorney. What is your take on what's happening in Georgia?
It's a massive story. I think, if anything, this has been underplayed overall by the media. I think, Harris, this is a dead prosecution. I think Fani Willis is going to have to step down. I think Nathan Wade's going to have to step down. And if the state of Georgia really gets into this investigation, which Governor Brian Kemp on down, everybody should be involved in this. I think it's possible there's a criminal prosecution against Willis herself based on these allegations. She tried to say that this was race-based, Harris, but by saying, oh, they're only focusing on one of the three attorneys that I hired to participate in this investigation. And my response to that will be, well, did you sleep with the other two as well? Because until the allegations that you were sleeping with a man that you funneled $650,000 in taxpayer money to, a man who may well have been unqualified to have the job in the first place, and also allegations, Harris, that she was traveling with him on extravagant vacations that were being paid for by the taxpayers of Georgia. If you were going to try and put the former president of the United States behind bars in an outrageous and unprecedented series of charges under Georgia state law, you need to be crystal clear yourself and have absolutely nothing in your background that is going to impinge on these prosecutions. I think these allegations by themselves, where often in the law, I can speak as an attorney here, Harris, it's not only impropriety, it's the appearance of impropriety and the appearance that Fani Willis broke up the marriage of a man she hired, that she was sleeping with him, and that she paid him $650,000 in taxpayer money. That is more than enough to cause an issue here.
So we're going to stop it right there for a second because, ladies and gentlemen, in the world of Fox News, nothing is more comical than hearing the words Fox News Research Department. That to me is laughable because Fox News is not a news station. I have been saying that, and I've yet to be told differently. And that they had to get the one black anchor there, which I'm not really too fond of her. She's like another Candace Owens to me. But you got Outkick.com, which might as well be the Blaze Light. And yet, Mr. Journalist over there already had it in his mind. Oh, he slept with her. Oh, they used state funds. Oh, they did it to have these trips. She's guilty. She needs to come off this case of prosecuting someone who has an overwhelming amount of evidence against him for voter fraud. That she herself, and I love how they say this, that she herself, her record must be spotless in order to convict an already guilty man based on evidence alone. Because that's the whole point. The whole point is Miss Willis 2 years ago came out and sat there and said that she was going to prosecute, and if she found something, then it was going to be stressed the fullest extent of the law. In the same sense, the Manhattan DA was also under fire. Why? Because he brought that case about Trump and his properties being well overpriced, and his books were cooked. Fox News was after him too. The point I'm making of all this is that this is nothing more than a smear campaign, where every other news cycle says allegedly Fox News has already sat there and said, oh, that DA is guilty. She's got to be taken off the case. Okay, let's play devil's advocate a little bit. Say she is taken off the case. Does that take away from the evidence against Trump? Does that take away from the evidence that he and his organization tried to circumvent the election in Georgia? Does it take away from the fact that 4 out of the many people that have been involved in this have not turned state's evidence to testify? If all that is true, then what is the whole point of going after a DA? Oh, because she's going after your beloved golden calf. That's what it is. Because honestly, so what if, like, the only thing they can go after her for, if anything, and again, allegedly, is misuse of taxpayer funds, which another charge can be thrown against Trump, actually. But that's the only thing, because everything else is hearsay. Everything else is optics. Everything else is what can we do to get these cases thrown out against our beloved Trump. Because I hate to break it to you right now, people are rallying behind him, and I'm not saying he's going to beat all these cases, but they're getting ever so stringent on who's running the cases and their daily lives to find any little bit of dirt. And Fox News has just proven that. But moving right along, some actual good news. Hopefully, if this can get passed in the House and the Senate.
Turning now to our CNBC Money Minute, lawmakers on Capitol Hill, they're announcing a new $70 billion tax deal. The bipartisan agreement would expand the child tax credit and add tax breaks for businesses through 2025.
CNBC senior markets correspondent Dominic Chu joins us now. Dom, this announcement, it closes out months of negotiations specifically over tax relief. Take us through the details of this deal and when we could actually see it go into effect.
So Morgan, Vicky, to that point, this deal would lift the child tax credit's $1,600 refundable cap and adjust it for inflation. Republican House Ways and Means Chair Jason Smith and Democratic Senate Finance Chair Ron Wyden are hoping that their deal will pass in the next couple of weeks so that it can be applied for the upcoming tax season. But that could be a tough act to pull off here as Congress juggles other priorities, including trying to avert a government shutdown.
And again, you heard that. The biggest thing was child tax credit, currently sitting at $1,500 per $50 cap, which should be adjusted for inflation. How much would that actually be? It can be estimated anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000 per head of a child per child, which again, for a lot of us who have kids, for a lot of us who are trying to make ends meet, tax time is great. Tax time actually helps you out, gives you a little bit of breathing room, especially if you're trying to get stuff for the kids. The problem is going to be is that Democrats have always wanted a larger child tax credit. Republicans have never been on board with that, which is weird. For the party of pro-life, they have never been post-pro-birth. Like, you're expecting these women to become broodmares and have children, but at the same time, you're not going to increase the child tax credit for them to be taken care of. And again, as they said so, we are facing another possible government shutdown because they got to figure a way to fund Congress. As I keep saying, they keep kicking the can down the road. The problem with kicking the can down the road is eventually that road is going to run out. Now, again, Republicans want to cut spending, but they want to increase spending in the defensive areas. But they want to cut education. They would love to get their hands on Medicare, to get their hands on Social Security. Why? Because they want to do to them what they're already doing to education. They're trying to destroy it to the point of privatization. They're trying. And thankfully, they have not gotten their claws on it. But not to sit there and say they're not trying. But the point I'm making is that it never ceases to amaze me whenever we talk about the American people, how little help we get. Unless we're Ukraine or Israel or another war. Oh, open checkbook. But whenever it comes to the American people, and again, this is going to be President Biden's problem. President Biden's going to have a hard time because you gave billions of dollars overseas in assistance, whereas the people you're asking to vote for you really haven't done a lot. And that's the crux of the problem. That's where a lot of people, especially potential voters, are going to feel a little bit dismayed. Because just like student loans, which is exactly what I'm going to now, that yes, that Biden has forgiven billions of student loans, but his allies will say voters aren't giving him enough credit. Well, for reason being, he has forgiven me. Now, don't be wrong about Biden. Biden has forgiven quite a lot of student loans. He has $132 billion in debt for more than 3.6 million Americans so far. However, there's still 30 plus million Americans still having some form of student loan debt. And I always said it was cheap that Biden turned around and sat there and said, well, I'm only going to forgive $10,000 to $20,000 because you still got to pay your way, which again was kind of bullshit, but he tried to push that through. The two people had a lawsuit who, by the way, didn't have student loans at the time, but sued the U.S. government, which eventually got to the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court sat there and said, the president does not have the ability to cancel student loans. Yet he's canceled $132 billion so far off of for-profit college scams, off those that are under the public self loans, off of those who have been paying for 10 plus years, but that backlog of student loan payments was never taken care of. He's forgiven them. But for those that don't fall under this category, they encounter debt. Now, for all those that don't know, student loans does count as debt on your credit report. And let's be honest, when you're incurring that kind of debt, it makes everything harder. It makes getting a bank loan harder, a car, a home, an apartment, a job, because jobs have credit reports too. So imagine having a student loan debt, even though you may have finished your degree and you will love nothing more to pay back your debt, but your debt still accrues interest and you just don't feel like you're getting ahead. At the same time, the job market itself right now is being extremely picky. It is. I mean, you might find a lot of junk jobs, as you will, that are paying well below minimum wage. But aside from that, the jobs that you know you can do, those companies aren't really hiring that well. But at the same time, getting away from my point, Biden, I still say, could have made it a point to turn around and cancel out student loan debt. He could have. Reason why I say that, guys, because as of right now, the student loan debt is a little bit over $1.77 trillion. Still, that's a 66% increase over the last 10 years. But right now, our student loan debt sits at $1.77 trillion. And I hear the people all the time, oh, well, why can't you pay that back? Why did you take that loan out to begin with? I had this, I had that. Whenever I hear that, I simply go, everybody's situation is different. Because the push at the time of the late 90s, early 2000s, the push at the time was get your education, get your degree to get a job. They did not push the trade jobs, the trade industry, as well as colleges, because colleges are still running unaffected. Tuition increases every year at college. That's not being addressed. The same education, but tuition increases every year at college. And let's not even talk about Ivy Leagues. I mean, most colleges, you're probably running what, 40, 45,000 a year, possibly, times 4 years. That's a lot. That racks up. Or more than 4 years, still racks up. Most people who are doctors, that's a $500,000 investment. They're in debt by the time they're actually in practice. But at the same time, nobody asks the questions to these colleges and universities, why does your tuition go up every year? If it's still the same school, the same chairs, the same facilities, why does your tuition go up every year? And again, everything seems to be adjusted for inflation, except compensation toward the American people. We're just getting wrung out dry to the point to where it's like, hey, eventually you'll get kicked off the stand. But again, think about that for a second. As people usually bring this up, those that don't have loans or paid loans are happy about this. Here's the question I always ask them. You may not like the idea that if President Biden did cancel out $1.77 trillion in student loans, you seem to be okay with the fact of paying other PPP loans, which I'll point this out every chance I get. The government between March 2020 and May 2021 for the PPP program gave out nearly $790 billion. $790 billion was given out as PPP loans. Here's the part that'll piss people off. $757 billion of that was forgiven. So you got to think for a second. Let's think about that for a second. $790 billion of a program was given out as free money to these businesses and small businesses, but only $757 billion has been forgiven. Do you know what that means? That means nearly 96% of that money we will never, those companies and those individuals will never have to pay. Nearly 96% of them. But you know who does pay? You and me. You and me will pay for the loans they were forgiven. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, really honest with you guys. It's a little difficult because for me, if I was paying my taxes so somebody could be student loan debt free, no problem. But for a business that has the ability and the assets to get loans and other finances, that ticks me off. And yet Biden had all the time in the world, the Democrats had all the time in the world to hammer this point home. That's how you connect. That's how you get minorities to pay attention, by pointing out the fact that this got passed and not what they needed. This is why I say the Democrats have all the ammo in the world. The Democrats have all the ammo in the world and yet will not use that. Makes them cowards, really and truly, but we'll follow that as it goes along. This story, guys, I did cover about, I think it was back in December, about an Ohio woman. And I talked about this, guys. Remember, I talked about the fact about these abortion laws, these abortion trigger laws, post Roe versus Wade being struck down, and that a lot of women are going to be making some very dangerous choices, or even more so, wouldn't know what to do in the event of having a corpse and still being charged with homicide. This was the woman in Ohio, by the way, guys, that she miscarried at home, and she was being charged with felony abuse of a corpse because she could not get the assistance that she needed at the hospital for waiting for so long. Went home and had a miscarriage at home. Because of the miscarriage at home, she called the police. The police decided to charge her with felony abuse of a corpse. Well, thankfully, this did go in front of a jury, and the jury decided not to charge her. But that right there is 1 in a million. Because who's not to say? Because keep in mind, in Texas, they're trying to make abortion up there with the death penalty. They're trying. Greg Abbott and friends are trying to do that. But this is why I keep saying, especially for ladies, for the women of the U.S., you guys, along with minorities, will make the decisions going into November. You can decide who's going to be the next president. But all I can sit there and say is, look at what the Democrats have done. Look at what the Republicans have done. And all I'm saying is there's one group out there that wants to treat women like broodmares. I'll let you come to that conclusion on your own. That's all I'm saying. But the last one I got, guys, before we get to our feel-good segment, IRS has collected more than $520 million in back taxes from delinquent millionaires so far. You guys remember a long time ago when the IRS needed money that they turned around and sat there and said, oh, well, if the IRS gets more people, they're going to come after you guys. They're going to audit you guys. And yet, $520 million back from millionaires. Unless you're in that millionaire tax bracket, you owe taxes, I don't think you have a problem. But again, along with the IRS, there are plenty of other government agencies that needed funding. IRS needed funding badly just because of the impending tax refund season that's coming up. And even more so, what has happened? All they have done was simply go after those that have the ability to pay back and not go after those who simply need a little bit of help. Again, Fox News, very quiet about it. But We're going to move on to our feel good segment, guys, because usually on the Frack We Got Here, we usually cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes we use faith humanity, but hey, it's Wednesday, it's hump day. We will leave you guys out some good vibrations, and hopefully this will be it for this man we covered last year who worked for Burger King for 20 plus odd years, never missed a day, never missed a shift. And Burger King, in my opinion, still has done him dirty. But there's some actually good news about this man, and we can share it.
Finally tonight, America Strong, how one man's hard work really paid off in an unexpected way. The kindness of strangers changing one man's life forever. Kevin Ford works at Burger King at the airport in Las Vegas.
Just a hardworking guy, just like anybody else, just trying to feed my family.
Over the course of 27 years at multiple fast food jobs, never taking a sick day.
I had to work a certain amount of hours. I didn't want to go home because I was thinking about keeping insurance and mainly paying the light bill or paying rent.
But everything changed in June of 2022 when a TikTok video of Kevin went viral for his appreciation of a simple work anniversary gift. Social media users thought he deserved much more.
The comments were flooded with people asking, how do we thank this man?
His daughter Serena then started a fundraiser for her dad, hoping to cover the cost of a plane ticket so that Kevin could travel to see family.
He set the goal at $200.
I wanted to show you something.
But instead, as the months went by, complete strangers chipped in more than $450,000.
Yeah, I know it's not a mansion, but it's mine.
Affording Kevin the amazing opportunity to buy his very first home in December.
I'm just really glad that I get to share my dad with the world and they get to see what a hardworking person that I've had my whole life.
And tonight, Kevin says he's overwhelmed with gratitude and has no plans to retire.
I'm thankful for every person all around the world who did this for me. And I feel you, and I love you all.
And America.
And again, guys, I think it's that. I thought it was a great story. I still say Burger King did him dirty because 27 years and all you give that man was a movie ticket and Reese's Pieces, and that's it. But to see him express nothing but gratitude, happy about everybody really chipping in and wanting to make sure that he, that he's able to see his family, that he's able to get a house. Let me tell you something. As a person that wants to be a future homeowner, I cannot tell you the level of joy and gratitude that man has. But I'm just happy that his story gets a happy ending, which is always a great thing to see. But yeah, fuck Burger King. But anyway, that being said, guys, that's going to do it for this podcast. Again, I apologize for my voice. It hopefully will get better. Like I said, wintertime and cold air. I'm hoping it gets better. I really miss being back normal voice. But thank you guys for sticking with me so far. I certainly appreciate it. Some shameless plugging before we do get out of here, guys. I do want to shout my boy Vaughn and Big VZA Dot, the man who is behind the beats and stuff right now. He actually has got me new beats for the show. I just haven't had time to really set all that up, but definitely check him out. Big VZA Dot on all social media as always. And also, you can definitely find us on other places as well. Not just the links there that you see at the bottom, but also Always Press Record TV. You can actually find them on Roku as right now, as you see right there, APR TV, or at alwayspressrecord.com, where you can find many shows just like mine there for your viewing pleasure. Definitely check that out. I highly recommend it. Of course, guys, you can find me, BlackBox447, on the socials. I usually do reviews of everything that I watch, that I read, and gym stuff because I like doing push-ups. At the same time, guys, link at the bottom. I'll just make that a little bit bigger for you guys to see. If you'll copy and paste that link into your browser, we'll take you to my link tree that the YouTube and Facebook groups for all of my podcasts. How the Frack We Got Here every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Get Bit also every Friday at 7 p.m. And of course, off of this podcast, which eventually we will definitely get back to at some point. But share, spread the word, because again, guys, we cannot do this without you. Without you, this does not exist. Without you, the whole mission is lost. So again, just don't like it and walk off. Like it, share it, let other people see it. Trust me, the whole idea is education, information. That's what we're trying to get to. So the last thing I'll talk about, guys, is blurrstation.com. If you don't know what Blur Station is, it is a place for blurs and people of color. If you love television shows, if you love anime, if you love art, if you love comics, this is the place to be for that spot. Much like, unlike Netflix and Hulu and all those other places that will literally raise prices, you can watch actually this for $10.99 a month. The only thing I do ask, if you do sign up, go to the Blurred's Eye View Affinity membership, select anybody there. We either want all of us to appreciate it, and of course, select the Affinity membership and subscribe now. Now, again, guys, the Affinity membership for 36 months at $10.99 a month, that does give you the ability to own a piece of Blurred Station. Something I would love to do with Disney, something I would love to do with Hulu or Netflix, but the problem is it requires an absolute amount of money and going through places like E-Trade or Fidelity Investments, only for one share, where $10.99 a month for 36 months seems a hell of a lot easier. And again, this is a station for us. And at the same time, if you have content that you can add to this, because here's the problem. We don't want another Tubi situation. Tubi had black creators and it only paid the white man. And I don't mean to sound racial or whatnot, but at the same time, those very same black creators lost their content while a white man got rich and Tubi made money. At the same time, I am all for seeing black people get money and owning their content, and you can do so at Blurred Station. So if you have content that you would love to share, they have to go to blurredstation.com, hit up the FAQ area, and those guys will get in touch with you, because if you have something to share for the world, then you should be able to own it and make your own money off of it. Simple and plain. But as we wrap this up, guys, I keep saying this all the time. The whole mission of how the Frack We Got Here is all about informing. As we get closer, November's not too far off, guys. As we get closer, get to know these candidates, get to know their issues, not just federal, but local. Because again, I can tell you this from being in Tennessee, Brad Sexton has to go. But at the same time, he can only go by election. And until everybody gets on board in Tennessee, him and his Republican allies will still run the public out of office. And that alone is a crime. But again, get informed, get to know these candidates. And even yourself, if you feel like running, there's plenty of sites that can show you how to run for office in your city and in your state, if you think you can do it. And if you can, go for it. Get in good trouble, as one very famous senator used to say. But that being said, guys, the last thing I'll say about the Frack We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the information, allow you to make up your own mind. But we do provide a lot of perspective that goes along with it. We do better as society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then. Like electing our first black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, electing our first black woman as a National Cybersecurity Director. All great things. We don't learn from history. We are doomed to repeat it. That's why we keep asking ourselves, why does everything go up on our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the Frack We Got Here. Again, guys, with the weather out there, please be safe. Be careful on the roads. This is full coverage territory. If you have liability only, might want to wait a bit. But either way, take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll get through this, guys. Peace.